Hello everyone, today I read the story named Bookmate to Sulomate. Writer TasTamaan01. February 14th. The beginning of spring and Valentine's Day. A grand occasion. Everywhere, there are new books, love, affection, and flowers, a real festive atmosphere. Among all this, there stands Sulomate, all alone. Her only companion is her love for books. She has no romantic partner. She's not unattractive, but she's not a stunning beauty either. She's extraordinary within the ordinary. In English, it would sound good to say gorgeous within simplicity. She does receive proposals, but she finds the typical relationships, constant talking, arguing, and breakups, distasteful, so she keeps her distance. Her friends, cousins, and even her older sister are all head over heels in love. Her sister had dragged her out on the pretext of taking her out, but then left with her boyfriend. Her sister had asked her to call her boyfriend over too. She, as the older sister, didn't want to be seen as old-fashioned. She said, "This is the age for love. Enjoy it." After her sister left, Sulomate stood there, confused. What should she do now? It felt so awkward to admit that she has no boyfriend in this day and age. She was embarrassed, thinking that her smart, educated sister might consider her outdated and uncool. For a while, she stood still, wondering what to do. She had never gone out alone like this before. Her family, her sister, her friends, someone was always with her. After some thought, she took a rickshaw and headed toward the book fair. It seemed like the only good option. Her books were her true companions. Struggling with her sari, she was sweating in the chilly air. The Spring Festival and Valentine's Day had made the streets crowded. She navigated through the traffic and finally reached the book fair. Writers, readers, the scent of new books, and the fragrance of flowers, everything was vibrant. Sulomate stood quietly, taking it all in. She mentally screamed, "Why is the world so beautiful?" She wandered through various publishing stalls, examining the latest books. As she reached for a book, someone from the other side also grabbed it. She quickly turned to look and saw a handsome young man wearing a white kurta. The moment he realized, he gave a wide smile and released the book. He said, "This book is about politics. I've read it, but I was just checking it out. You can have it." Sulomate replied briefly, "Okay, I'll take a look." "Do you read books like this?" he asked. Sulomate looked at him with a question in her eyes. Understanding her gaze, he added, "Actually, I thought girls mostly liked romance stories." People read whatever they like. Just because I enjoy learning about new things, doesn't mean I don't read romance. I try to read everything, learn as much as I can. What do you read mostly? Books about my country's history, heritage, mysteries, and interesting stories. Those are the ones I enjoy most. And you? I mostly read detective, suspense thriller, horror, and sci-fi books. But I also discuss my country's history, just like you. I haven't read much sci-fi. Which sci-fi books do you recommend? Well, everyone has their own preferences. What I think are the best might not be the same for you. But I suggest books like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the Moon, From Earth to the Moon. There are plenty more, but let's start with these. Sulomate glanced at the young man's shopping bags and asked, "Did you buy these today?" "Yeah. I'm leaving the country soon, and I don't know when I'll get to visit a book fair again. So I'm collecting a few books in my mother tongue to take with me." "Wow. That's nice," she exclaimed. They both continued to wander around the stalls, talking about books. The young man suggested, "Let's grab a bite. It's almost noon. What do you feel like eating?" "I'm thinking of having some street food today, fuchka, chapati, and spicy puffed rice. If it gets too spicy, we can balance it with some ice cream, how about it?" Sulomate laughed. "You're on. So, you came out alone today? On such a beautiful day, no one comes out alone. Are you poking fun at me? Why do you girls always seem so advanced?" Well, you're out alone too. Did I ask you anything? For single people, every day is beautiful. And when you're surrounded by books, that day becomes even more special. Same here, Subhana replied. They enjoyed the street food together. After a while, Subhana couldn't handle the spice and started tearing up. Looking at her, the young man asked in a sympathetic tone, "Can you not handle spicy food?" Subhana, struggling with the spice, said, "Ugh." He quickly handed her a bottle of water. "Why didn't you say anything earlier?" Subhana, after drinking water, replied, "I didn't want to miss out on street food with my bookmate." He smiled. "Well, next time, don't eat something so spicy. You look terrible when you do. Just because I didn't get scared doesn't mean someone else wouldn't." Subhana felt bad. No one had ever spoken about her appearance like that. She said, "You're really crossing the line now. I thought you were nice, but you're such a troublemaker." He chuckled and said, "When you get angry, you look like a dinosaur. It feels like fire is coming out from your ears, nose, and cheeks." Subhana's heart sank. She left the food and walked away. He didn't call out after her. Her heart ached as she walked. After a while, the young man caught up with her, holding ice cream and sweet treats. Panting, he said, "Don't be mad, please. Here, take this." Subhana felt a soft tug at her heart but still held on to her pride. "You don't need to do this. I'm going home." "You're leaving so soon?" "Stay a little longer," he said. Subhana felt conflicted but decided to stay a bit longer. They walked together, but neither of them spoke. They walked far, and as evening fell, the young man said, "It's time to say goodbye. Let me call a rickshaw for you." Subhana didn't say anything. He called a rickshaw, paid the fare, and handed her a small package. "This is for you." Subhana, surprised, asked, "What's this?" "A small gift from your bookmate. Don't refuse it, or I'll be sad." He insisted, placing the package in her hands. As the rickshaw began to move, Subhana looked back. The young man was standing, watching her leave. A strange emptiness filled her as she saw him disappear from her sight. The rickshaw took her home, and she realized she had spent the entire day with someone whose name she didn't even know. People easily forget nameless individuals. At home, she opened the package. Inside were the 3 sci-fi books. When had he bought them? She hadn't noticed. She opened one of the books, and in its folds, there was a note, written in beautiful handwriting. "Dear bookmate. When you read this, we will be far apart. We don't know each other's names. Does anyone remember a nameless person? Listen, I was captivated by your changing forms. I hope this admiration stays with me alone and doesn't go to anyone else. We'll meet again on some new occasion. Please wait for that day. Sincerely, your bookmate." A smile appeared at the corner of Subhana's lips. She murmured, "I'll wait for you, nameless bookmate." She often thought about the day spent with him. Sometimes she smiled, sometimes she felt melancholy. After her sister's wedding, everyone started planning for her own. But despite everything, she waited for the nameless man. One day, while avoiding the chaos in the house, Subhana went up to the rooftop. A rainbow in the eastern sky seemed to bring some message of joy. Then, a familiar voice called out, "The special day, the nature knew, but the beautiful chameleon queen didn't." Subhana turned, startled. She saw the nameless man and froze, looking at him in disbelief. He understood her confusion and pinched her hand, saying, "This is real, madam." She winced in pain and rubbed her hand. "How are you here?" "Surprise. Aren't you happy?" "Very." "But how?" He didn't answer. Instead, he kneeled, presented a ring box, and asked, "Bookmate, will you be my soulmate?" Tears welled up in Subhana's eyes with joy. Holding back her emotions, she said, "How can I say yes to a nameless person?" He laughed and said, "Bookmate, are you ready to be Mrs. Zaki?" "Yes." "Mr. Zaki, I'm ready to spend the rest of my life with you, enduring the punishment of waiting all these years. As you wish, Your Majesty. The end.